It's good to see you again. I'm hoping that I leave with you something that you can use. All the years that I've been around, there should be something useful. This day has been an interesting day. Just to give you for instance, and there's no recordings of today. Probably should have been, but I set out early to go meet a gentleman who's got a really neat name, got a sing-songy name. He had a bunch of 60s Chevrolets, not Chevrolets, Fords. We ended up talking about Ford trucks and stuff like that, which kind of surprised my boy because he thinks that I don't know anything and he's smarter than me. But
28 years old, smoking weed, living with his mom.
right, but I love him. But anyway, he had wanted me to give you an estimate because he couldn't get anybody to even show up. And he calls me one day and I show up the next day. And we talk about what I think would be the best way to fix his masonite sided home. The soffit and fascia is what he's worried about the most because it's literally falling down. And then the home next door, which I'm assuming is his child's. It had siding gone, vents gone, a door needs to be replaced, that kind of thing. So went over and talked to him, and then I went on to the next job, which they had an on-demand water heater that had quit working. I was like, well, I'll consider that an emergency, and I'll take off from what I was doing and go take care of that. And wasn't getting electricity to the Rinnai water heater, which is a good water heater. It's a good water heater. So I had to track down where the electricity came from. It was, the breaker that was marked was not what turned it off or on. I don't know what ended up being. It took me a little while to figure out because the breaker panel was labeled, but it was labeled wrong. So what happened was the fire alarms kept going off. And that was because two of them had bad batteries, which they had replaced with bad batteries, thought they were new. And one, which caused all of them to have problems, had a loose wire inside the box. A neutral was loose. So, because it was driving them nuts, no matter what they did, she just went over and turned the breaker off that said fire alarms. Well, that actually controlled the water heater. So they went from fire alarms that wouldn't quit beeping to not having hot water, and she just took and unplugged the smoke detector and carbon monoxide. So it was took me a little bit to figure out. And what else was it? There was a couple other things that, took care of pretty quickly. We had to put a magnet on the wall so she could hang things from it. Then I went to take care of a guy who I'm very fond of because he's struggling right now. He lost a leg. He's 49.
Oh,
yeah,
he's 30.
Yeah, I thought so too. He's not. And, he's tough. He lost it about 8 inches below his knee. And so he's having to reassess everything he's doing. And so I went over there and he had the screen door wouldn't close. I fixed that really quickly. And then the faucet wouldn't turn on the cold water side. I fixed that very quickly. We talked for a while. I ended up buying his comics because he's not taking all the comics that he had with him, just the ones he really likes. And he sold me the rest. And I gave him more than what he asked. And then I talked with him for a little bit longer and drove all the way home. And just as I was going by, getting close to my home, I saw my wife heading out. I was like, hey, you better come back and get me because it was too late to head on over to Eureka Springs, which is where I would normally have would have been if I hadn't had all what I considered somewhat emergencies. The estimate wasn't an emergency, but it was something I could take care of in just a few minutes from.
It's not Pokemon, it's Magic the Gathering, and no, actually, we have a lot of people who collect it.
Oh, is it Pokemon? Oh, you can see what I'm doing. Oh. Well, I've given her through the years a lot of things that are lands mostly, and some things that are related to dragons and things like that. So I had this notebook, and I have a bunch of notebooks that I said, hey, I'll just put all these cards in that I gave her, which are like full art lands. That's really what she's into is a lot of
artwork.
Yeah. So that is, so we went and sat and paid our taxes, albeit late. Learned a little bit about, you know, there's always more to learn when it comes to tax. And we learned that there's ways to cut it in pieces and not have to pay all of it at one time. It's not an impossible thing. We've just been...
It always hits at our slow period.
Yeah, so we've been investing in the future for quite a while, and it hadn't been investing in the mobile home park like I should, and that's my fault. So this year we've already turned the corner on one, and we're heading toward another. So by the end of this year, we'll be doing where I don't even have to work. Of course, I will. So anyway,
But that's all our extra money that we invest.
yeah.
So it bites us both ways.
All we do is buy things for the park and make improvements to it. So there's no real profit for the park. It's just that even though I said, you know, I don't have to, believe me, I pay the bills. That ended with us spending time together, and we always like spending time together. We've never fought, we've never argued. And I know you're going to say that's kind of crazy, but it's true.
14 years now?
Yeah. So she and I get along very well. And I was always teasing her today several times that I'm so controlling that it was difficult for her to stay with me. And she's just laughing about it.
No, my first question was, have you been talking to your ex-wife?
Right. So, no, I have been. I just knew what it would get a rise out of her. What we were going to talk about today, which we already did on YouTube Live, is things you should not do with your mobile home. And the first thing that I talked to about yesterday was, you know, patching up or not doing anything with your metal roof. Or for that matter, shingle. So like if you have a shingle roof, you might think that's less maintenance, but it actually has a requirement for maintaining around the roof jacks. And you'll find that the shingles kind of curl up at the end, and because the drip edge is put on, squared up instead of pulled down, so the angle would be straight. And a lot of times that drip edge is put on over top of the felt paper. So when the water ends up, there's a lady that talked to us, she was talking about, she had an ice dam, and it's like, oh, you got a shingle roof, and this is what your problem is. So that ice dam is caused by the water collecting in that little bit of a valley right before it goes over, and it will stay there until it finds a leak. And because the drip edge is on top of the felt paper, so instead of the felt paper on top of the drip edge, it will go underneath the drip edge eventually when it finds that leak, and it will leak down into the fascia. And quite often I've had it with it leaks down into the soffit and goes back, because the soffit is not always level. It's kind of running downhill sometimes. And it runs into the wall, and it, you know, like, I can't understand why we're having such a bad leak and the roof is good. But that's what it is. So, is there maintenance things that you should do? Yes, shingle roofs, you should try to maintain the roof jacks and look after anything that is a penetration around there, because that's where water wants to go in. Snow too, by the way. When snow is on the roof, that's the only time you'll see water go uphill, because the snow is blocking it from going downhill. It's like collected at a certain, well, she said ice dam, but it could be snow. But when it comes to the tin roof, whether rounded or peaked, there's maintenance with that. And I would say, if you did the maintenance right, you should do it every 3 years. And everybody resists doing that. It's like, oh my God, it's tough to do. Costs a couple $100. So then they pay thousands of dollars difference in damage. Sometimes the damage you don't even see. You don't even see it. So it'd be like down the wall, into the closet, the stuff that you got sitting on the floor, you don't notice that they got, wet, the carpet got wet, the floor is soft, because you never step in the closet. Same with behind the couch, around the windows. I could go on and on, all these scenarios, all because the maintenance wasn't done along the outside edge, penetrations that go through that metal roof. And a lot of times I've seen people that are like, oh, I know where the leak is, it's in this general area, and so I will take a caulking gun, either with tar or silicone and I'll fix that in that area. You got to fix the whole thing. And if you don't coat the whole thing, it will eventually rust. And it will just start rusting all the way apart. I've done and worked on them bunches of times. And I promise you, if you don't maintain anything, everything requires maintenance. If you don't maintain it, it will deteriorate. And people will try to patch it up and think that, oh, I did it. No, you didn't. You just fixed it where you don't know where it's leaking now. You saw it was leaking over in the kitchen because it came down on the linoleum, and you're like, oh, I know where that is. Or it's coming out in the light because that's where the plastic penetration in the plastic is. But in reality, what you should have done is seal the whole roof. And I know that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to people, but that is exactly what you should do. It requires maintenance. There is no exception to that. If you want to not do it,
You're going to pay for it later.
you're going to pay for it. I promise you, you will pay for it. And I've seen people just move out of the house because they, I had a woman just heartbroken because her kids were, she was under the impression that her kids were dying because they were breathing in mold and it's dangerous, and somehow they implied that she should buy them a home. How about this 80-something-year-old woman take care of her, her business and not theirs? They should be. She gave them a home. They should be fixing it. And they didn't. That's the first thing I've got to do. And I told her, I promised her, when tears pouring out of her, that I would take care of it. So.
Is that lady in Texas?
No, she's here.
Oh, okay.
So what I'm telling you is doing a halfway job on your roof is a terrible idea. You might as well have not done much of anything, because particularly with caulking, it shrinks. There's no exception where caulking doesn't shrink.
You don't even like using caulking around
I do not. I'd rather use tar and then cover it over with some kind of coating, because the tar is solid. It does not shrink until it gets a lot of age. If you put a coating on it, it tends not to shrink, crack very much, but it will. It takes 3 to 5 years. Now, I'm not here to tell you exactly how you should do the coating. I have videos of it. I'm sure there's tons of other videos that people have done. But I'm telling you, doing a halfway job on your roof is a horrible idea. Just horrible. All right. One of the things I was talking about was also when you do ceramic tile, you have a responsibility to make it where that ceramic tile can have something solid to adhere to. And I just recently pulled up a bunch of ceramic tile in an apartment complex where they just use liquid nails, which I couldn't think of that, to put the tile down. It did stay there, but randomly start coming up right straight to the plywood. And what it's meant to do is bind to concrete, like concrete board. And with a mobile home, a lot of times you've got particle board on that floor. And like by far the majority, it's on 2-foot centers a lot of the time also. So, not always, but that particle board, it tends to have a problem with you when it has a wet area, particularly like a kitchen or a bathroom, something like that. So you should put it right to the plywood. That's a horrible idea, no matter if it's a mobile home or a house. But in a mobile home, you should go to a lot of trouble to keep it from moving, because the floors give. You may not see it, but I promise you it gives some. 3/4 plywood is a good start, but a lot of it doesn't have straight up just 3/4 plywood, and it's not on 60-inch centers a lot of the time. It's on 2-foot centers. So putting ceramic tile on something that moves is not going to last. And I've seen that over and over again. What you need to be conscious of is either put a layer of plywood over that, then put hardy board, and then thin set. And that'd be the correct way to do it. Don't just put ceramic tile on the floor, even with thin set, on particle board, because water will go through the grout, and it will delaminate. First of all, the thin set is water based, and if you get soaking wet, if it overflows, one of the things that you might be considering is don't do ceramic tile in a bathroom if you got a bunch of kids, because they splash. They get tons of water on the floor, and it goes through the the grout through the concrete and down into the plywood. Now, if you were to paint that floor, it would last a lot longer, period. For whatever situation in any wet area, any dry area that one might happen to get wet, if you paint it with anything, stain, clear coat, any trash paint that you have, multiple colors, it doesn't matter, it stops that plywood from loading up and soaking it up. It really does. It doesn't totally waterproof it, but it surely slows it down dramatically. Secondly, you would be putting another layer of plywood on, then your thin set, or your hardy board, and then thin set. Does that make sense? Don't try to just put it as if it was a concrete floor in a conventional home, because that's not what it is. I remember one job I was on, the water heater had leaked so badly, and the home was out of level, that water heater just trickled all the way over across the bedroom, and it ruined the floor, and the ceramic tile was coming up. So we're taking it up. Man, everybody's coughing. It's all black underneath that ceramic tile. And underneath that particle board, on the bottom side, it was black too. So it was rough. But we got through it. But as an example, so what I want you to do is consider, when you're going to do ceramic tile, do it properly. And that means if you're in a conventional home or a mobile home. Think about those things. Don't do it wrong. And this is something I want to point out. A lot of people get into mobile homes and you have no real intention, I guess, of never spending much money on it. They just figure, well, I got a cheap place and I own it. Or I don't owe much. And all I'm going to do is work on paying it off, but they never fix it. I promise you, they end up moving out of the home because they just didn't think they had to do any work to it. There was no work. You're supposed to just be able to buy a home and not do anything. Well, guess what? I work on conventional homes and mobile homes, and I see it all the time, that people will tear up a perfectly good house because they just don't think there's anything that they need to do. Mr. Jones told me whenever I moved into this, when he was selling me this place, he said, you won't believe it, but people will move because they just don't want to, they have to clean their house and they don't want to clean it. They will literally move because they don't want to clean their house. So if you are that person, you might ought to start thinking about your lifestyle. There is absolutely nothing that's going to survive you not putting any money into it. It will, if you just intend to do that, then you're gonna go through everything that you ever own in short fashion. You're gonna damage your cars, you're gonna damage your homes, you're gonna probably damage your lives. Everything requires maintenance. And I deal with that a lot. People just like, oh, I didn't know. Well, you didn't look into it either. You've got to seal around the doors, seal around the windows. I didn't know that. Everything requires maintenance. I'm telling you, if you have a masonite sided home, you need to paint that every couple, 3 years. Caulk all the joints. If you don't, it'll swell up all over the place and it'll rot out the ridge beam, which is the 2x6 that runs around the outside. You have to maintain things. You have to maintain it. I promise you have to maintain it. But people want to move into a mobile home and not spend any money. That happens a lot. Like, I will call this guy because it's bad. My husband fell through the floor. Didn't you think you ought to do something before that when you put plywood on top of the floor? So that's the next thing. That's the next thing you should not do. And that is to put plywood over top of bad floor. Why wouldn't you do that? Because the particle board will never quit rotting. It's gotten water, it's on it, it's soaked into it, and you're moving across the top of it on top of that plywood. You're sitting on top of staples and nails, and eventually those start collapsing at different angles and different depths. And nothing, if you have put linoleum over that or carpet, you will see every joint of that plywood. You will see every one. You will have to take all that up. No, it'll be the edge of the plywood that you will see. You will have to take all that up and then tear out the floor like you should have done to begin with. You know, you can say whatever you want to, that I did it and that had no problem. I promise you, you will have a problem. You will have a problem. And I'm the guy that tells you that I've done it, fixed it bunches of times. It's not the right way to do things. Go right over the top of the bad with some good. That's not what you do. It might seem short, simple, but that's not what you do. I promise you it's not what you do. Don't do that. Take up the old rotted, and put down good. If you want to put, there was a gentleman that was on, and he said he does 2 layers of 3/4 plywood. That's killer. He takes the old floor up and puts down 1.5 inches of plywood. That is killer. That's great. It's not wrong.
But if you're renting it, they're still gonna mess it up.
Your renters can still mess that up. But you want to. That's the thing about renting. It will break your heart. It will get personal with you, because the people that said I will be your best renter,
They're lying.
quite often are your worst renter. And that doesn't mean that you should be negative about every comment that's positive, but I'm telling you, people that have weaknesses, they say things that they really mean when they're saying it. So it comes across really genuine. But like a drug addict will tell you, I'm so sorry. I will do better. I promise I'll do better. I will, I'm going to be the best you ever saw. I'm never going to be. They mean well. The tears will flow. They mean well. But, that'll hurt your feelings. I promise you, what they do to you will hurt your feelings after you stretch out and help them. So be conscious of the fact that people deteriorate. If they don't maintain their life, which is to say they don't gamble away all their paycheck, they don't use all their money buying drugs or alcohol, which it seems to me alcoholics tend to not spend their rent money, and they don't steal from the neighbor. So that's kind of different. But they do deteriorate. They don't just stay in one place. They do destroy their lives slowly but surely. And of course their health also. So be conscious of that, because if you see it, understand what's coming. Another thing that you should be aware of is maintaining the I keep calling it underpinning, but the plastic that holds the insulation underneath the house, that underbelly that holds that insulation in, if you have it down, it will rot out the floor, particularly particle board, but it will also do regular plywood too. It takes longer, not very long at all with particle board. What happens is, a lot of people say, well, I can't afford to put skirting up right now, or I can't afford to repair it because the wind blew it down or something. Or
Can't afford not to.
what happens is animals start coming in there to live with you. And if you don't maintain it, remember this is a reoccurring theme, maintenance, maintenance, maintenance. If you don't maintain it, they will be living with you. As many a time that I've opened up, and this is in houses too, by the way, that I've taken out a bathtub and found all the way around the bathtub was leaves and nuts and all kinds of stuff, where squirrels or possums or whatever were living around the tub while they were taking a bath in it. That quite often happens when they think, well, I can just not have skirting at all. That's not going to work. Not going to work at all. Unless you got a way to go in under there and fight off all the animals like dogs, cats, mice. By the way, mice can do some damage.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of every year they come back. You can't kill them all off. They'll come back, but they chew on everything. They get up in there and they'll chew on a water line that's not even close to your bathroom or your kitchen. You've got to keep after maintaining those mice and rats. I haven't had to deal with rats, but
we had one that chewed up our cameras and
yeah, I hauled in a 65 Chevrolet with a V8 and a Saginaw 4-speed, and I had them deliver it, and the guy said to them, when they opened the door, this big old beaver-looking thing popped out. It wasn't a beaver. It was a Norwegian rat that had been in that truck, and we hauled it all the way over here. So it took me a little while to kill him, but he kept doing things like chewing on wires, chewing them in two. I mean, all the way in two, which some of it was pretty tough. So anyway, you got to maintain it. You can't, unless you just want to live with them things, You've got to maintain, go after it and be aggressive with it. I don't think you want to live with them, and you don't want to live what they do to your house. I promise you, I've seen it. So you don't want your cats in your ductwork. You don't want your air conditioning going out onto the ground or your heat, because that's a lot of expense. That requires maintenance. That requires you making sure that even if you have skirting, that you go around the outside and make sure that nothing's went underneath it. And it's not only on mobile homes. I worked on a house on the golf course that a squirrel, I worked on a couple houses that had squirrel damage. The squirrel had a hole that went underneath the concrete block wall, and there was something there for him to do that. First, he just made a nest in the bottom part of the house, which had a lot of room. It had a really scenic view, and it's a pretty steep hill. So when I went under there, I could see, they said, man, we just had a company come in and repair all the damage that this squirrel did, but they didn't have any way of keeping that squirrel from coming in. They didn't have any solution. So we thought we'd call you, because a friend of mine told me that you can figure it out. Well, I figured it out, but the squirrel was still getting in their house. They just didn't know. It was in a different place. And I blocked it off. It got so mad, and this has happened to me twice. When I blocked off the hole, it started chewing on the house to get inside. Different places, until it would get inside. I mean,
There are a couple places like that.
yeah, one was in Holiday Island.
One was up in Crosses too.
Yeah, they're pretty determined animals. Once they decide that they want to live in your place, and they done made all their furniture the way they want it inside there, they're going to be pretty determined to get back in. They'll chew up the siding, chew a hole, get inside the house whatever way they can. And so we had to kill that squirrel. That squirrel was not going to quit. It just kept coming back. I put rabbit wire behind the vents because it would chew through a cedar vent. I put a new one in when I first met these people. What can we do to stop them from, because right after I put the new one in, they chewed right through that wood. Slats were like 3 or 4 inches. I was like, I've got an idea, so I climbed up in the attic and I put a 1/2-inch hardware cloth, I think they call it, but heavy duty wire. That stopped him from going through there. So he went to another place and chewed through the siding at the peak. And I had to block it there. And that one, according to them, that was because there was a lady down the street that let her whole yard grow up so all the animals could live in her yard.
Oh, Lord.
And it was a fancy neighborhood, Gully Park area. Everybody was having problems. So they were talking about all the different neighbors that were having problems with rabbits eating up their, flowers, and squirrels. Everybody had squirrel problems. It's going to require maintenance, guys. You're going to have to go around your skirting and check where animals might have dug underneath. You're going to have to do it. I remember there was a couple that I did work for. They bought this house for really cheap. It was back taxes. And I fixed it all the way up. They spent a lot of money on it. Well, I mean, $20,000 or more. That's not a lot of money, but it was a vacation home that ended up being real nice. And they decided to hire a plumber to check all my plumbing. And he goes, well, there's something, they didn't fix all these pipes, where, you've got all these pipes that are chewed on. And I was telling him, hey, that's not true. I haven't been over there for a month. All that was replaced and it's been chewed on. That's because you've got animals going underneath your skirting now. No, you're just making it up. I want you to go over and fix it. So I went over there and replaced 3-inch PVC that had been chewed on. It was not functioning. It was functioning just fine. But they wanted it replaced, I replaced it. And then I sent pictures of the holes. There were 3 of them going underneath the skirting. They were driving up from Fort Smith, Barling area to go by the lake. They didn't want to believe me. Yeah, whatever. I sent them the pictures, and we had put in a whirlpool tub in the bathroom, sort of a soaking whirlpool, and something had got inside and chewed the water line, and they got a high water bill. And I said, you're going to have to start putting out poison. Oh, I don't believe in poison, My wife doesn't want to kill a bunch of animals, and we don't want to. Well, I don't know what to say because this is never ending. I just think you're not doing the work. I said, it doesn't matter what you think. I can show you pictures where they're chewing on the water line. And not only that, I found a dead one and I put it in their back, in the back where they have their grill. I'd made a deck there. And he goes, oh my God, you can't believe you put that animal on our deck. And they were running out of money, come to find out. They actually financed a deck that they built on the front of the house, which was huge. They had me bid it, and they financed it with Lowe's. And it wasn't built very well. But, you know, I mean, it was a tough job. It was on the side of a pretty steep hill. But when I took that job on, anyway, I don't want to rant on. What I'm leading you to is everything, even your vacation home. Bad things happen in empty rooms, by the way. You should be aware that you need to check everywhere. I'm not saying, what do they call that, vigilance? Mm-hmm. You should be vigilant. Your car you need to oil checked. You know, you don't just drive it. You got to check your water every now and then and check your air pressure on your tires. It's just normal. You should not expect that you can go through life without maintenance, all right? Another thing that I see a lot of is people try to patch up linoleum. And I've seen a lot of different ways. They literally cut the linoleum perfectly, the pattern out just so, but never works. You can't patch linoleum. I mean, you can try, but it will always find, particularly on mobile homes, it will find a way to show itself. And it will be very obvious. That is something you should not do. And that's why I don't recommend that people put linoleum. I don't like linoleum for that very reason. It gets one cut and you can't fix that whole section. You can't. And one cut can come from somebody dropping a hot pan or dragging a stove out or dragging a refrigerator out. Anything like that can cause that linoleum to have to be replaced, the whole room. And what Lowe's and Home Depot want to do, they don't want to pull it up because it might be glued down. They don't want to usually pull it up. What they'll do is they will put like a 1/4 inch paneling that's made for overlaying floors over the whole thing and screw it down thoroughly and then put new linoleum over it. There's nothing really wrong with that other than most of the time there's dirt underneath the torn, bellied up areas, and you really got to cut those sections out. Most of the time they do. I mean, there's exceptions where they don't, but most of the time they do. But it's just, what is it, good after bad? Do not put peel and stick tile on top of your linoleum. It will move. It will move, I promise you. Do not do that. If you're going to use peel and stick, do not count on that glue to hold anywhere, but particularly on linoleum or any other flooring. It will move around. If you're going to do it to floor, which I have on many occasions, if you're going to do it to the floor, the wood floor, use glue. And most of the time what I do is I let that glue get dry until you can see through it, and now when you put your fingers on it, it sticks. Your fingers will stick to it and it will not move. When you put it down, you better have it in the right place. That is what you do with peel and stick. I'm not saying you can't. Now mind you, one thing I want to point out, if it's $4 a foot or 30 cents a foot for the material, most of the time you're going to find the thickness is thinner, the color thickness is thinner than your fingernail. It doesn't take nothing to scratch it. And then you got to scratch you can't repair. A lot of people fuss at me and saying that laminate floor is great and it has, there used to be the particle board laminate floor. If it ever got water underneath it, it would swell up on the edges and then you wouldn't really notice it. Even if you stopped the leak, it would swell up and then you would rub the edges, it would be worn out. The color would disappear there. It's because the color isn't very deep. It's like walking on your countertop. You got a little bit of gravel in your shoe or somebody dragged something across, you got to scratch. I remember putting some laminate floor many, many years, that was like 25 years ago. And the matter of fact, they called me and I sent John over there to work for them. But we went through I went through this whole house putting this laminate floor in. And it was, it was a journey. And somebody was moving things into the kitchen. I think they're putting knobs on the cabinets. I wasn't doing that. And I was in another room finishing up the laminate floor in there. and somebody stepped on a screw and scratched it in the middle of the kitchen. They're like, oh my goodness, what are we going to do? Ain't nothing you can do. I mean, you can try to, find a way to match the color some kind of way, and you can probably, but it'll never be as what it was. It'll never be. And you can't pull it up. That stuff snaps in pieces, and it never goes down the same way again. It does not. And I've had people argue with me, but I'm promising you it does not. Do not just put down peel and stick. One by one or otherwise, you've got to add glue to it, because the glue that they give you is not any good generally. One of the types of flooring that I like is Traffic Master Grip Strip. It has very good glue. Very good. But it doesn't, you'll have to see it to understand. It doesn't have the same responsibility. That whole floor is all tied together, and it does not glue to the floor, it glued to each other. And I can replace one piece out of it. It's difficult, but I can do that. Those are things that you need to do. A lot of times I've seen people try to patch up electrical in mobile homes. It's not a good idea to get into something that you don't know what you're doing. You watch a bunch of videos. Figure out how to, what it is you need to do. Like if there's an outlet that had a cut-in box, or an old work box, they call it at Home Depot and Lowe's, and it pulled out of the wall, when I replace it, I use a whole nother box. I have to pull all the wire out. And what I'll do is I'll put a double outlet there. And then I can because all that drywall around that thing is all tore up. So don't just try to put a piece of paneling all the way around it and then put it back in, because it ends up being a problem for you later. Over and over again. I've seen some beautiful works where they literally picture framed the paneling around it. Beautiful. I've seen them use wallpaper on it. But it still keeps falling out eventually, because you're messing with that outlet, pulling the cord out and all that stuff, so that you end up putting your finger on it and pulling. So if you get into a project, plan it. Study it. All the information that we have on YouTube now, there is no reason why you cannot take the time to find out what you need to know. Find out. Don't just jump into it. I respect the struggle. I do. I respect the person that's willing to do those things. I have no problem understanding. I'm just trying to help you struggle to somewhat successful. Not waste all that energy struggling and then finding out you did it wrong. Study up. We got all the information in the world. The answers are there. Okay, so I think that's where I want to stop, because the rest of it I want to talk about next week. We had a lot of people asking questions on YouTube. We have a lot of questions on YouTube. And not so much on TikTok, it seems, which is okay. I just want I want the information out there. I want people to have that information, just like I was talking about. And I think one of the questions was asked, did I get into it because it was a niche that I saw? No, I was already in it, and I just wanted to share because there was not much out there about it. And some of my methods are quite a bit different. Not that their methods are wrong, but different. One of them is Drew's Roofing and Home Repair. I like him. He means well. He charges more than I do, quite a bit. And he doesn't do metal roofs anymore. He does rubber roofs, and almost exclusively rubber roofs on mobile homes. So he'll strip your, and I have no problem with it. Rubber roof is supposed to last for like 50 years. I don't believe it. And I see people just down the road from our shop, and through all the years of driving around, I see people patching up those rubber roofs, putting patches on it, and then coating the whole thing so it's not black anymore. So I know rubber does deteriorate. It is an oil-based product. It will deteriorate. Everything does. It is not going to last for 50 years. But that's what they tell you. And he does a great job. He strips your house with 2x4s and puts plywood on it. Then he glues that stuff every square inch, builds a soffit. But, you know, his roof is $11,000, $12,000, and mine is $4,000, and mine is metal. And there's nothing wrong with either one. I mean, if you have the money to spend, that's not a bad choice. It really, really works well. One of the things that I'm learning is the vents that are in the roof of a mobile home are important. I used to take out quite a few of them. Now I'm trying to think about not doing that when I do a metal roof. Don't take out all the vents. leave some, or all of them. The reason is it helps it's called attic rain. I need to do just another discussion about that alone. But now I think you should, keep the vents. And although I always left one or two, I think more now I would probably leave all of them. Now that being said, I want you guys to understand, it's not that I'm elitist or anything. I had to learn all these things on my own.
The hard way.
Some people were older than me, showed me ways to do it that were really kind of ramshackle, not very good, but it was at least what everybody was doing. And I had to learn how to do things on my own to what I thought was high quality. I promise you there's more than one way to get anything done, always. I have multiple things that I can show you on as far as roofing, flooring, siding, all those things. So I wish you all the best, and I want you to be conscious of the things that everything requires maintenance. And there is no relationship, there is nothing that does not require maintenance. All right. Catch you guys later.